All right, and we are now in session. Welcome to the calling with Neo. Yes, and I am Neo Guahu, and today, what I am choosing to focus on, what I've chosen to focus on, is rather an interesting journey that I've been helping two ladies actually embark on. So, essentially, these ladies, identify themselves as, one identifies herself as somebody that has a calling, but it's not yet clear in terms of what she then needs to do in her response to this calling. And then another lady is just an ordinary person who is looking to establish a spiritual connection where she feels that she needs guidance in her life, and it would come in very handy for her to be able to tap into something far more divine for areas of her life where she may have questions or she may have blockages. So, you know, this led me to today's conversation, rather, to say, you know, there is a lot of people I know for a fact that are probably listening right now. You are listening, and you are either sitting in that position where you're saying, "Look, given everything that has happened in my life and how I've navigated up to so far, I'm sitting in a position whereby I really feel like I've got a deep void. I've got a something inside of me so deep, but I've tried so many ways to fill that void. Other people can even go as far as saying, look, I thought that the deep void that I have been filling all these years was due to my career ambitions, but I've gone all out and I've achieved all those things that I wanted to achieve. And still, I still have this void. Somebody else may say that, you know what, I thought I needed a new car. I worked very hard and eventually I got that car. And somehow I still find myself that a month or even 2 months later, 6 months later, that car doesn't mean anything anymore. I don't have that feeling that I used to have. I'm back to having that void where I still feel like something deep inside I am missing. And these are a lot of times the scenarios of a lot of the clients that come to speak to me about that, I've got a yearning. So it's not always a situation where somebody comes to me and says, this is my problem and I need you to help me connect or connect on my behalf psychically or, be a medium so that I can communicate with loved ones. A lot of the times, the people that approach me, I find that they are somewhere mid career professionals that you know are just feeling stuck, and I can imagine the situation must even be worse right now that as a global community we are faced with the challenge of dealing with a pandemic, which is COVID-19 or corona, which has disrupted or interrupted the way in which we would carry out our lives and economic activities. More and more people are finding themselves with more time at home, having to deal with challenges that, for the better half of the time, they had chosen to ignore because, hey, guess what? I only have to deal with this challenge in the house with my wife or my husband for only a few hours, then I'm back at work, which is where we spend most of our time. Or he or she's back at work, where now I'm left alone to my own devices and I can carry on with this coping mechanism that I have created within my life to help me face whatever challenges or whatever problems that I have, either in my marriage or either in my career or with family. Right. So I'd like to go back to these two ladies that I spoke about out of respect for the work that I'm currently doing with them. I will not be mentioning their names, but their situations is somewhat familiar. their situation is somewhat similar. Yes, right, whereby these two people share a common thing of feeling a particular void in their lives, and they feel that nothing that they know at the moment can help them fill their void. And they feel that at the moment, no material possession, no career ambition, or no relationship ambition will fill that void for them. In fact, what they both report, or what they've given me as their account, is most of the things, if not everything, that they've pursued in order to fill that void has not really worked. In other instances, it has worked, but it is not lasting. All right. So their mandate, or my mandate, that they have given me, or their request that have come to me about, is that they would love to establish a sense of spirituality. They would love to have a deeper connection with something beyond what being human for them has always been about, their five senses. You know, they are of the belief that there is something beyond what they've experienced up to so far. Um, their yearning is for something far more divine, something metaphysical. So, with that said, here's what I've started them on, and understanding that my mandate is for them to get to a position whereby they feel very comfortable with their spiritual journey. They have established a connection, and to a certain extent, um, you know, they've activated their third eye, which is a conversation most people out there have been really curious about it. Why do I even want to go about opening up a third eye? You know, and I can give you Lady One. Let's call Lady One in the order in which they first started coming to me for assistance. So Lady One is a professional. She happens to be an executive to the boss of the company, and she's been feeling quite unfulfilled with her career. She's not as such concerned or worried about relationship. Not that it is perfect, or not that she's got everything in order. No, essentially, but her biggest priority is that there are things I would have loved to have acquired in my life, or there are things that I want to acquire in my life. And I feel like with all the hard work that I'm putting in, I just keep missing something. And she feels like she's come to a conclusion whereby she's relooked at the attempts she has made, the efforts she has put in, and as far as she's concerned, she doesn't pick up or identify anything flawed. I mean, she's not saying she's perfect now, but according to her analysis, is that that if I move one and I move two and I move three, one, two, three is supposed to happen, right? And she's come to a conclusion that all her efforts seem to have been in vain, or she's just running around in circle in this, endless, or cycle of putting in effort and not getting the results that she wants. And she approached me with that to say, listen, um, I would like for you, Mkulu, to help me just be able to connect spiritually. So the first order of the day was for me to first explain to her, to say, listen, the spiritual realm is a very interesting um, realm, or the spiritual journey for that matter is a very interesting journey, in that you can't go in there with the perception that once you establish a spiritual connection, or you are able to tap into your spirituality, that everything is going to be perfect and your life is going to fall into place and you're finally going to have everything you've always wanted to have. That was the first order for me to explain to her that. And the second thing that I had to explain to her was that, look, you must remember that as you tap into this particular space of spirituality. It's like the world that we are living in, only that it is different in its own way. It's not as physical. Our world is rather physical. We use our five senses and so forth. But and our world has inhabitants that we can actually look at and point to, which is the physical realm. But the spiritual realm is a world that you cannot necessarily experience with your typical senses that you use to navigate in this physical realm that we experience as human beings in our human form, right? But the similarities is that, like any other place, it has its good, it also has its bad, And I remember she gave me a look like, what do you mean it has its bad? And literally, what I had explained to her, or what I shared with her, was that, and I hope this can help you maybe figure out some stuff for yourself. Maybe you've been on this journey, and you getting results that maybe you like, but also it's coming with a lot of bad that you are finding very difficult to explain. And I gave a very simple example, or a practical example that I knew should be familiar with. Here in South Africa, for that matter, we have what is called Ugutwasa, which is basically initiation to become either a shaman, all right, or to become a traditional healer, to become inyanga, or to become sangoma, for that matter. All right. And essentially, the idea is that once you have, through whatever means, be it through dreams or be through visions, or however way that you feel you have been communicated with, you are now convinced that you have a calling. It means that for most people, they take it that it means that mailing your twasa, it means I must go to initiation school where I will find a mentor or a trainer that is going to teach me in the skills of becoming a sangoma or a divina, for that matter. All right. And so, what was important for me, and I love actually that I advise a lot of people who believe that they've got a calling and they've got to go to initiation school to first be very, very, very sure about whether or not they should go into initiation school. Because my belief is that you have a gift, it is your gift. And there are various ways in which this gift can come into form, or you can start being able to experience and express this gift in your everyday life. And it doesn't mean that you have to go to a Peshweni, which is initiation school. It doesn't mean that you have to submit yourself to a particular institution or organization or a particular leadership, who is then going to put you through the normal paces. Ezokuthwasisa umuntu. All right. And essentially, this is where I like to start people that believe that they've got a calling. I like to say that, look, if this is your gift, I believe that the powers that be that you believe have given you this gift, amadlozi, for anybody that may not understand, you can go and look up Kundalini. Good friend of mine introduced me to the concept of Kundalini. One of these good days, I hope to have him in studio and he can break it down even further for us. But for basis, or for simplicity's sake, we will refer to the Kundalini as amadlozi. Right. So for anybody that believes that unamadlozi and you've got Kundalini, you've got your calling, I always say that it is very, very important that you first believe that, or you first understand that they have to communicate to you directly. You have to be absolutely sure that the path that you are going to take in pursuit of activating your spiritual gifts or talent is the correct path for you. Essentially, we can no longer carry on treating our various gifts, which are very unique in their own way, from a generic perspective, thinking that one size fits all type of scenario. Person A did one, two, three. Therefore, I need to do one, two, three so that I can also raise or activate my gifts. It doesn't work that way. We are unique and we come from unique backgrounds and we have very unique and specific gifts based on the responsibility or the mission that we possibly have to fulfill during our time here on earth as human beings, right? So essentially, what I then started doing with Lady A and also Lady B joined, was that, all right, first, let us first establish, let me put you on a process of establishing whether or not you do have a calling indeed, and it is the type of calling that does require you to go to initiation school, or is it the type of calling that requires you to lead a certain particular lifestyle that then creates an environment, a conducive environment for you to grow spiritually and for you to improve the nature of your gifts so that they're not just lying dormant, but you can use them and you can activate them and you can tap into your gifts as and when you need to. And, this is a process we simply just start in our own safe spaces. I generally, would prefer that, you find a quiet spot, and most people will refer to this as meditation. And I've always found the concept of meditation, as I read in various sites when I was starting my own journey, trying to see if I could establish some kind of a spiritual connection. One of the first things that I tried to do was meditation, but I found meditation to be, how it was being explained to me and how to do it. I found it very, very difficult, yeah, impossible to be exact with you. Yeah, a few times, yes, I did manage to get it right, but to be honest with you, I'd say 90%, up to 95% of the time, I failed dismally at meditating successfully or meditating to an extent where I felt like, yeah, something happened, something moved. That void, I feel like, okay, I did something with that void. I managed to move something inside that space. All right. And I can tell you that the biggest challenge I find with the instructions most of the time around meditation is that, you know, among other things, which I think, yes, are fairly very important, a quiet space where you will not be disturbed, a quiet environment. But not all of us get to live in cities or in areas where that kind of silence is at your fingertips and you can command it willy nilly, you know. So, with that said, my biggest challenge really was that the instruction of clearing your mind and not thinking about anything. I mean, are you able to do that? I mean, if you have been able to do that, please do let me know. You can send me an email, thecalling@yourmedia.co.za. And I'd like to know how you actually did it because I had the biggest challenge achieving that, whereby, yes, I would achieve creating an environment that was absolutely silent. Well, not 100%, but sufficiently silent, I would imagine, or I would think, and making sure that there are no disturbances, maybe putting my phone on silent, as well as just informing everybody that do not disturb me, and making sure that there isn't any interruptions. However, then when it came to the situation of saying, all right, fine, now I need to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, count from 10 up to, there are various ways in which people will then go through a ritual of breathing exercises so that they can calm themselves down. And hopefully, this helps you get to a point where you have totally cleared your mind. Literally, my biggest frustration is the more I tried to do that, it seemed like the more things would come to mind. A training that I underwent that I can say came very, very close to, you know, um, being able to clear my mind. Rather, what it did is they emphasized that instead of aiming to clear the mind, one should rather aim to focus on a particular thought, on a particular idea. Right now, the one place where it lost me, we come from different environments. If you've never been to the beach and now you're supposed to imagine you are walking along the sand and feel the sensation of the sand on your feet. I respect all of that. But if you have never been to that type of an environment, it's very difficult to bring that into your imagination. Maybe the closest you've been to is seeing it on TV in a movie. So, yes, you may see it on TV. Visually, you understand what this thing looks like. But when it comes to the feeling, you really can't, quite grasp because you haven't really experienced it yourself, you know. But if you're lucky enough, and you've been to the type of environment that is being suggested for you to imagine within your mind to focus on, then yeah, you have better chances of achieving whatever it is that the goal is for you to achieve, which is possibly clearing your mind. All right. For me, one side that was not good enough for me. Essentially, it just was so much work, and I just couldn't get it right. So back to the ladies, I imagined that me telling them that they need to clear their mind and imagine a particular thing. I thought to myself that if I had frustrations achieving that, what about them? Wouldn't they go through the same frustrations? Obviously, they would. I would have to spend time with them to understand what they're familiar with, which is what I just didn't essentially or don't essentially always have. Getting to understand what they've been exposed to, how they've been exposed to that. Our experiences are very, very different. For somebody, being in a garden might be the most soothing of environments, and it might do them a lot of good in helping them calm down and get to a state of mind that is peaceful and conducive for one to be in meditation or to be in a state of bliss. However, we experience things differently now. Take someone, for instance, who is allergic to, flowers and so forth, and you're talking about this beautiful garden. To them, their experience is, the sinuses going out of control and so forth. So, it's I find it quite limiting for me to try, as somebody that is taking you along the journey, for me to try and paint you an environment because your experience of that particular environment, and I'm asking you to imagine it, your experience might be that it was not soothing, it was not calming. Maybe there's a history around that, you know. So I stay very clear of trying to give you a scenario that you must imagine that I assume that will calm you down and will help you to be able to go into a relaxed meditative state. However, my little trick or something that I have seen working something that has definitely worked for me, all right, thanks to my mentor that actually taught me this, is candle focusing. I'm sure quite a number of you have heard of candle focusing. If you are, an avid pursuer of meditation and things beyond the physical, and you've also been trying to get on the journey, maybe you've heard about it, so forth. That has been one of the most effective techniques that I have come across. But one of these good days, I think in another episode, I'll probably dedicate an entire episode to candle focusing, and I'll actually bring in my mentor. All right. So that he can guide us through the process and he can tell us how it works. But the most beautiful thing about when he took me through this training, he also explained it to me from a scientific perspective as well as a physiological perspective, in terms of what happens in the brain and what parts of the brain we are trying to tap into. He explained to me, the heart and how the heart works. So it was almost as if I was sitting through a medical journal lecture, and I'm glad that he did that, because I'm the type of person, I'm very analytical. Yes, I have my moments of being a creative, but I do things better when I understand scientifically what is going on and how things work and what is happening. I just seem to be able to respond very well around those types of conversations. All right. I'm able to then take that and understand why I'm applying it and how I'm supposed to apply it, what the challenges are, what the limitations are, and so forth. I am that type of a person. If you're lucky enough and you don't need that kind of information, then, kudos to you. Then you don't suffer the same challenge that I would normally suffer. And I can imagine it must be much more difficult for somebody that is coming from possibly an engineering background or a scientific background or even mathematical background. It can be very, very difficult. But I find it that for creatives or people who have immersed themselves in creativity and imagination, it is a lot easier for them to, just accept and trust and just go with the flow of whatever it is that they have to do in order to, establish some kind of a spiritual connection. But spirituality is something for everyone. I always say that we were all born with this ability to go beyond our human limitations. I think all of us can attest to moments in our lives when we look back and we can say, I don't know how I got through that, but there was something deep and so strong inside of me that I believe got me through that. But I can tell you that I did not read it in any book. I did not scientifically figure it out or mathematically run through some kind of equation that gave me a solution to resolving that problem or solving that challenge. All right. So now, like I said, my favorite has to be, or something that has worked, has to be candle focusing. All right. But it's very, very important that you do it correctly and you do it with someone that knows exactly what they're doing. So basically, that is what I've placed these two ladies on. All right. Candle focusing exercises, very, very particular. But obviously, because I appreciate or I understand the fact that they are individuals, right, with varying needs. So, in the process of my helping them walk this journey, I've also had to also tap into my own energy spaces as well as my own spirituality, asking for guidance. Number one, for guidance to understand what they need from a spiritual perspective, and asking guidance from my guides, to connect with her guides to communicate effectively how she should be, you know um conducting or engaging them. All right, so that she can grow or they can grow spiritually. So like I said, it's not a one size fits all type of approach, or process to follow. No, rather, it is, you need a kind of mentor that understands that they have to give you your individual attention and take the time to truly get where you're coming from and take the time to to try and connect with you spiritually. You may not be feeling like you are connecting, but your energy field is always around you. Your spirituality is always around you. You may not be feeling it. It may not be something that you are fully aware of, but it is there. And for somebody that is trained, then they are able to just, tap into that. Right. So now, essentially, what we have to remember and what I've had to also caution the ladies about is what I spoke about a bit earlier on when I said that, there are times where it will happen that once you enter into this world, just as much as our physical world has bad people and good people, it's the same in the spiritual realm. All right. Now, I want you to imagine, because this is very, very important information. As you get into this and you're going to start doing this, you need to understand the pros and cons. All right. Um, so, the spiritual realm, you will come across all sorts of beings in the spiritual realm that inhabit that particular realm, right? And, quite a number of them are also looking, in as much as you yourself are looking to have a spiritual experience, right? They are also looking to have a human experience, to experience the things that they cannot feel because they do not have a physical form that then would enable them to experience what we get to experience as human beings, right? Or rather, as human in this human experience, right? So, in as much as you are interested in them, and much as our world has its bad people and also its good people, it is the same thing in the spiritual realm. All right. There are beings that, you want to stay away from, and there are beings that you want to work with in the spiritual realm. Right. So, depending on your beliefs and so forth, I am just merely sharing with you how the two worlds work. All right. So please don't go into that realm with a sense of being naive. Don't be naive. Understand that in as much as you want to tap into whatever goodies could be that side, there's also uh, beings that side that want to tap into whatever goodies that they want to. They want to experience things that you may not necessarily, live by. We've had situations where somebody goes into initiation school, uyo twasa, you know, and unfortunately, a lot of times, a lot of people mabahamba bayotwasa or bafika lapho bathwaswa khona ne. Sometimes, and I've seen this several times, that they're not made aware that as they are tapping into the spiritual realm and they are communicating and establishing relationships with different lozis, for purposes of this conversation, different spirits that supposedly you want to tap into, that can help give you guidance, to help you navigate your everyday life, or help you be able to express the talents and the gifts that you were born with or that you were given. Some of these elements are not necessarily very good elements or very good beings. All right. So spiritual does not default to good, it does not default to bad. Just take it that it is a world that has both good and bad. And then it means that your biggest, among other challenges, your biggest challenge then becomes being able to, number one, identify what is good for you and what is not good for you. So, as initially I said that a lot of people by a hamba, they go ugo twasa into initiation school. And this information then is not made very, very clear to them, and it's not emphasized with the importance that it deserves. And before you know it, you went in there, you find that you went in there, you did not drink at all, you did not touch alcohol at all, and somebody goes through initiation and they graduate by a twasa udlintwaso. And then when they come out, they've got this new behavior of not only do they drink, but they really, they become borderline alcoholics. They find themselves that they cannot live without alcohol, right? Now, and what I have been able to, for myself, to identify or to realize, it has been that you find that that entity, the entities that you connected with, or that particular entity that you allowed to have a primary primary say over you and your spirituality. Now it has become now a part of you. All right, it's traits, it's characters, and it's things that it wishes for, then start becoming part of your behavior, your everyday behavior or your regular behavior. So you find yourself, Uguchi, all of a sudden you have a taste for cigarette, you have a taste for marijuana or for weed, the hab, as others love to call it, right? So now that is in the most practical of ways that I can highlight it to you. And I think purpose of today's session basically is just to make you aware, among some of the things that I hope to achieve, is to make you aware of the dangers, the pros and cons of the spiritual realm. All right, to say to you that walking there and going there being fully aware. All right. And unfortunately, some of the trainers out there, they themselves, you find that in their own training, because remember, they were also trained by somebody. And now, if they were not trained or made aware of such dangers, how on earth are they going to make you aware and help you to avoid such things? Sometimes you walk in there and you find that when you come out, you are breaking certain values that you had set in your own life. You are breaking certain principles that you used to live by. You find yourself deviating from those principles that you had decided for so long, for yourself. I'm not saying that change is not good, but at the end of the day, if that change only makes your life far more miserable than it was before you went into your spiritual journey and you went in Ugutwasa to go epiphany or for initiation, then it is a bad thing, because I would think that you pursued this because you are looking to improve the quality of your life and the experiences that you are having. Now, like I said initially, right? um just because you are embarking on this journey, it doesn't mean that your life is going to be perfect. All right, but it's even far more worse when you do not receive the kind of cautioning that I'm currently giving you, to say, remember that in the spiritual realm, it is a world made up of all sorts of characters, both good and bad. You need to walk in there knowing exactly how to identify what you want, the ones that are good for you, the ones that are not good for you, for that matter, irrespective of what you believe in. But once you decide that you're going to tap into the spiritual realm, you'd better be ready. Okay. And I'm not scaring you. For me, up to so far, this has been probably one of the most fulfilling journeys I could have ever embarked on. All right. Today, yes, I've gone through initiation in Twasile. I had my own challenges and I had also a lot of good that came out of it. But still, it meant that even after graduating, only then did I realize that you've only graduated, it's only the beginning. They say uinyanga. Essentially, being nyaka means that you're a graduate and you can go and heal people, or you can go and do your the work of your calling. But essentially, that was not my experience when I came out. And a big lesson is that I still didn't feel like one. Do you literally, think about it. You go to varsity, you study to become an accountant, and you graduate. Do you just walk into a work environment and you know exactly how it happens? Because now you are in industry, you are in a controlled environment, which was a school environment, all right? As close as possible. Yes, the school environment tries to mimic the real world, but essentially, the thing that we all know about the real world is what it was yesterday is not necessarily what it is today or what it will be tomorrow. The school environment assumes that everything stays the same, all right? And it tries to equip you and prepare you as much as possible to deal with possible eventualities that can crop up, right? But the school environment will never prepare you for every possible eventuality that can come up, right? Because in the real world, the environment is always changing, factors are always coming into play, new factors that nobody has ever come across, and we all have our different challenges that we need to face and deal with from time to time. So, going back to land or this thing that you need to be fully aware of. And remember the emphasis is, do you have a calling? Is it the type of calling that requires you to go to initiation school? Or is it the type of calling that you can activate your gifts by just changing a lifestyle? Maybe you find that in other people, their calling requires them to stop drinking, or, and I don't have anything against alcohol. I know I'm mentioning this for the second time, as if it's a problem. No, I'm only mentioning it because you know what? I've seen it so many times. People come out of there and becoming so dependent on alcohol. Other graduates or izinyinyanga, other shamans or sangomas go as far as saying that, hey man, me, I can only do this spiritual work of helping you connect psychically or do medium work when I've had something to drink, when I've had alcohol, right? And yeah, all good and well, but essentially I've found that a lot of the people that depend on substances generally, I found that you know they they don't do the kind of work, or they don't do something that they can come back to and say, look, I know that is what I did, that is what I advised you to do, and that is the guidance that I was giving you, and I own that. They don't tend to own the advice that they give in their sober state of mind. Now, if you're going to do this work and take people's lives into your hands and actually try and help people, and you know, it's very important that in every state of mind, you can be able to stand by the advice that you gave, to stand by what you said. All right. And like I said, I absolutely don't have anything against proper consumption of alcohol. I myself do drink, you know, but I'm very cognizant that you shouldn't drink in such a way that all of a sudden you feel like now I'm a better sangoma, or now I'm a better shaman because I'm tipsy. No, your gift is your gift. It was there before you were drunk. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, just to highlight some of that, uh, those pros and cons that you've got to be cognizant with. All right. There have been instances where, we find that somebody we are and somebody comes back from initiation school, and you'll find that their sexual lifestyle changes. They hunger more for multiple partners, and they have an uncontrollable desire to sleep with multiple partners. Now, if that has been your lifestyle all along, and you've got no problem with that, then that's your lifestyle. That's what you choose for yourself. You were doing that before you went in there, right? However, now you must understand that all our actions has have their advantages and disadvantages. So with that kind of understanding, you know always what you're getting yourself into. All right. And you cannot be surprised tomorrow when certain things happen as a result of the actions that you take. All right. So, like I was saying, there have been multiple instances where I've seen somebody had a wonderful, great family, either a husband or a wife or a partner, a spouse for that matter, and they go in a Petrani into initiation school. They come out, and they have now all of a sudden developed a yearning to have multiple partners and sleep with multiple people. Um, Now, like I say, if you're gonna do it safely and you don't endanger your life and you don't endanger the lives of other people, hey, then that's up to you. You're engaging responsibly, but like I say, everything has its own consequences and so forth. So as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. So why I'm mentioning that, these are some of the symptoms that I've seen of somebody having gone into initiation school, and the primary Josie or Kundalini that then they establish a dominant relationship with, then starts being so strong, and they end up influencing their behavioral pattern. So remember, as you go into the spiritual realm, right, um you are basically also you know saying, yes, I am willing to be a host. Remember I said that there are beings in the spiritual realm that also have a desire to experience and feel the things that we human beings get to experience in our physical form, in the physical realm, right? So going there and tapping into that spiritual realm, basically you are literally saying, all right, cool, I am, you are gonna be my guides, or I'm gonna work with you guys, or with any particular one that you know you end up finding yourself being with. It means that you are also saying, yes, I am willing, for me to be my body in the physical form, through my human experience, for you guys to be hosted. I'll be your host, essentially. And some of the consequences that come with that is that as you become their host, some of them, when they do take over, and you're allowing them to experience being human through yourself in your physical form, some of them, they totally take over. There have been situations where I've seen somebody, avugelwa amadlozi, where this being just takes over their entire function as we know them, and to an extent where you even hear a different voice. And because now maybe they are about to do rosy work, but you find, or they're about to do the spiritual work to help whatever issues or whatever challenges that your client might have come to you about, help solve those problems that the client could have come with, right? I've seen situations where people literally cannot even remember what just happened. I mean it. I mean, ask anybody that or who's in the industry and who's actually a practitioner, or who has been exposed long enough to izangoma or inyanga. They'll tell you that either they've experienced it themselves, or they've seen other people going through that experience where totally you'd swear that this person has multiple personalities, where you see this is your friend, Tabo, or Amy, and but lo and behold, Amy is not speaking like Amy. The voice is very, very different. Amy all of a sudden has a male voice, a deep male voice, and she's using terms, even going as far as speaking in a language you've never even had them speak in. I mean, I remember one of my experiences, must say, Petrenu, at initiation school was one of our colleagues, uye wavungelwa idlozi, so he had an experience where another spirit, or elinye idlozi for that matter, or kundalini, took over, and he started speaking a different language. Obviously, this is one of the languages that, through initiation school, during the course of the initiation school, is a language that, we had not necessarily spoken, but we were taught a few words, just to recite some of the things that we need to recite and so forth. And this colleague of ours was literally fully speaking this language, not even in his own voice, but in a different voice and format and style. And I mean, for me, it was the first time I was seeing something like this. All right. And obviously, when the Rosie came through, or the Kundalini came through to speak, had a particular message to deliver, to whomever was around there. But, now imagine a situation whereby now you've got something taking over that literally does not abide by your principles, does not abide by your values, and you are not guided, properly by your trainer or your kobela for that matter. You'll find yourself in a lot of trouble. You will find yourself being accused of things you have no knowledge of. You will just be hearing accounts or reports of, what, this is what you did, so forth and so on. So, those are the murky waters of the spiritual realm. Look, if your experience is different and you differ with what I'm saying, you've experienced it differently, truly, I do welcome you to actually send me an email. Drop me an email, and let's give me a different perspective of what your experience has been. Nobody really has a monopoly over this, because none of us can claim that we are experts in that area. Well, to a certain extent, we know more than other people if you've gone through the training and you've been a practitioner for a certain number of years, right? But essentially, my way is not necessarily a way that is going to work for you, all right? So I am inviting and I'm welcoming your perspectives, your experiences. So you can send me an email, and that email address is thecalling@yourmedia.co.za. So as I am coming to a conclusion with this particular a session, or this today's podcast, really, here are the key points that I'd like to leave you with. And I'll continue talking about these two ladies on coming shows and sharing their experiences with you. But also, one of these good days, I will have them in studio to come and share their experience up to so far, what I've taken them through, and what their experience has been like, how it has improved their lives, and how, if at all, where they are facing challenges, how it possibly, maybe it was not the experience that they want. But, definitely I do promise that I will invite either of them, or even the both of them, to be in conversation with us and just share their experience with us in terms of what they've learned, how they've grown, and how much it has benefited them to embark on this journey, right? But with that said, I'd like to basically, let's just consolidate, um, you know, the points that I was giving you. Point number one: if you believe you have a calling, right, or it is established that you have a calling, however way that you've established that, do remember that the first question that you should be asking yourself is, what does my calling require me to do in order for it to be activated, in order for me to start using it towards my benefit and the benefit of the people that I love? How do I serve? How do I then start serving my community with this gift that I have? All right. Does my calling require you? Does my calling require me to go to initiation school? Or does my calling require me to just have somebody that can guide me from my own home, maybe over the telephone, which is what I'm doing with these two ladies? Our consultations are over the phone where I give them a set of instructions and activities that they need to do in their own space, the type of environment that they need to create for themselves, so forth. And they then come back and give me their experiences, and we both examine the experiences. Obviously, on my side as well, I have to prepare myself. I have to also tap into my spirituality to be able to serve them to the best of my ability or to the best of my gift, right? So, does your calling require you to go to initiation school? Or does it just require you to just have a mentor or just have somebody that can guide you from a distance? That's number one. What is the purpose of your calling? That's the second one. Eventually, you know, you are responding to a calling. A lot of times people say, yes, I have a calling. Yes, I've decided to respond to it. Yes, I'm going to initiation school. Or yes, I'm going to do it through a mentor that's going to be helping me over the phone. I've spoken to Mkulu Nkanyamba. That's my Josie name, or that's my name, the official name that I got when I embarked on becoming a traditional healer, or on becoming Inyanga. That's a name that was then that I received, right? And that's another topic for another day. How do these names come about? All I can tell you right now is nobody, not my Gobela, gave me this name. My mother didn't give me this name. This is a name I received. I believe divinely. All right. It was a divine happening when I received the name. And later on, we went through a process of confirming whether this is the name that, that is my Rosi name or my spiritual name, Bunyanga. So they call me Nkulunganyamba. Right. So essentially, that is something that we will look into in maybe upcoming podcasts, right? And then the next thing that I want you to be aware of is that, or just to remember, that I've touched on earlier on, is that as you embark on a spiritual journey, um, you are basically now tapping into a world whereby just because it is spiritual, it does not necessarily mean it is all good, it is all safe, it is holy. No, it does not necessarily mean that. You need to be aware that you are tapping into a world where, just like this physical world that we live in, where there's good and there's evil, where there's good and there's bad, there's positive, there's negative, you must know that it's the same thing in the spiritual realm. There's both good and there's also bad. There's good and there's evil. There's positive, there's negative. All right. So be fully aware of that. And when you finally make that decision, you must have at least gone through your own process, all right, of making sure, or of getting to a point where you are absolutely 100% sure that this is the path that you need to be taking. All right. And for you to get to a point where you are sure and you are already communicating spiritually in a safe way, in a way that will not harm you, you don't necessarily need to be inside IPESH or inside the initiation school. No, you don't necessarily need to be there. There's processes that you can undertake. Like I said, with these two ladies, one, Vele, she knows she's got a calling, and she's just looking for the right path to take in terms of which school is she gonna go to. The other lady, she was just interested in having a spiritual connection, right? So she does not necessarily believe she has a calling, and it doesn't matter what I believe, right? She doesn't necessarily believe she has a calling, but she yearns to fill that void that she's feeling right? That gap, that is that gaping hole inside of her, right? And she has identified that she needs to embark on a spiritual journey. So that means, so essentially what it means for her is that I'm also putting her, she's going through a process from the comfort of her own home, where I've given her a set of instructions that is going to help her to open up her third eye. All right. That is going to help establish a spiritual connection. And it's the same thing that I'm doing with this other lady that also has a calling that maybe she may eventually have to go to a particular school to go and to go through initiation to become a traditional healer or a sangoma, right? Or to become a ngaka or a shaman. All right. So, the emphasis around this is that from your own safe space, you should be able to already establish a spiritual connection that has a communication channel that allows you to get better guidance and clarity in terms of how you need to develop your gift, your spiritual gift, and become the human being or the person that you would love to see yourself becoming. I hope that the information that I've shared here has been, will be of value to you. You can go out there and apply it. And if you are interested in engaging further and you don't want to wait for the next podcast, um, I am more than happy to give you a consultation. All right, just to help you get started on your spiritual journey. You can drop me an email at it's the calling at yourmedia.co.za. Until next time, thank you very much.